Yes, I don't think it's right to cry at work, unless of course something has actually made you cry, like harassment and bullying. And that actually does bring out a huge emotional outburst. The other thing I think that is really important is that we actually show that we care about people. And that is also, for me, a big part of equality and diversity. Fairly recently, I saw a film called Blindside, in which Sandra Bullock starred. And she showed that she really cared for somebody who was very different to her. The person who she actually cared for was a black, very big young man. And obviously her family were a white family. But she took this young man into her family and loved him like he was her own.
And my friend said, but can't you see it's to do with their colour? They didn't want people, black people to play football. And I thought to it at the time, it had not, in my equation, it was nothing to do with black people. It wasn't until I went back and had to dissect what it was about. And for me, it was about honesty, loyalty and integrity.
And what I actually lacked was one of these, a pencil. That was it. But because I lacked this pencil, I actually felt all the forces of injustice starting to pile onto me. I had not done my homework, not because I didn't want to, and it wasn't really a choice of mine.
And it was looking at how those are viewed when we have decisions of inequality, how people view that. And it made me question some of my own views of how people perceive me. Because I think at that time, I don't think I saw myself as being black. I just thought myself as, a person. And it wasn't until the first time I had someone said to me, go back where you come from. And at the time I found that quite hilarious, because my answer was, well, I was born in Moseley, Sorrento Hospital. And the person looked at me and were quite confused. And I was confused saying, why are you saying go back to where you come from, where all I ever knew was, England.
So, for a lack of having one of these, a pencil, all these chemicals that streamed through my head that made me feel these emotions of anxiety, all the discomfort was there. And all of these things are what we now associate with injustice, discrimination, prejudice or inequality. But you may well say, well, that was then, this wouldn't happen now. Well, maybe it wouldn't happen now with a pencil, but what actually goes on is that we now have swapped the pencils for these kind of instruments. Laptops, personal computers of all sorts. Recently it snowed, and some of you may well have got caught in that snow, and the general pattern was a lot of people were expected to work from home. Absolutely fine. However, some people were actually made to feel uncomfortable because they didn't actually have one of these to be able to take their emails, to be able to take messages, to carry out work at home. And then to actually go back in and explain to people, oh, actually I couldn't do that because I haven't got a laptop, I haven't got an internet connection. Again, from what people have said, this feeling, these chemicals stream through them as well.
The story was so emotional because Sandra Bullock took him into her life, into her home, and made him part of her family. And as I said before, if we could all do that, what a special world we would have. If we didn't just recognise the differences and thought that that's not the same as me, so it's not right. If we just thought that that's not the same as me, but isn't it interesting to think how different that is to me, how different and special that is.
Talk about equality and the values and principles. I uphold those values of honesty, loyalty and integrity, because they really are important, and we need, and all of us need to believe in that. Or, you know, as they say, we live in interesting times.
We have to be thinking of solutions which are there and readily available to us. And one of the solutions, which doesn't need an awful lot of research, doesn't need a lot of resources, is the way we relate to each other. And that's all around us and is obvious for us. But we have to be using that in the right way. So it is about how we relate to people. It's thinking through the choices and the assumptions that we make